All right, guys, right on, man. Welcome back to the Independent Investor channel. We're providing the most value on this channel by allowing you to be introduced to a lot of the awareness to the stock market, but I really want to further the discussion and show you where a lot of the information that we talk about on the channel comes from. And in this video, I'm going to drop you into the Vanguard's website. And if nothing else, over the course of this few-minute video, you really need to check out the website for yourself. Save it to your favorites on your desktop computer. It should be one of those places that you go back to and refer to. I always talk about the Vanguard's ETF listing as the shopping mall for ETFs, and that's really, I do really consider that. I own a lot of the products off of the Vanguard website, and I'm going to take you into that, and I'm going to really show you what some of the highlights are of that particular page, how to kind of read through it, how to utilize and extract the real value from that ETF listing page. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to drop you into the Vanguard's website, and I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a review of the Vanguard's ETF offerings page. So please enjoy. Awesome. So I've kicked you in. I want to show you the Vanguard website that I refer to all the time as the shopping mall for ETFs. Make no mistake, there's no reason why you have to just go exclusively with Vanguard. There's some lower cost options out there, but I think the idea behind this exercise is to introduce you to a website that I refer to very, very often. I've chosen the majority, if not exclusively, my investment ETFs off of the Vanguard website, but certainly deserves to be added to your favorites list. Absolutely. So from the Vanguard's homepage, we just browse a list of Vanguard ETFs. So if we kick in there, this is really the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to demonstrate for you guys. This is super important. And let's see, kick in here. Yeah, cool. So this is the list of 59 ETFs. This hasn't changed for a while. And on the top here, you can see here the bond durations. You can see here that in the short term, they've really started to kick up with the volatility in the stock market just from the last couple weeks, or the last week especially. Bond yields have really performed quite well. I've already taken profits once in my bond portfolio, that of which will be one of the portfolios that I review, but I own a significant portion of these. I do not own the extended duration. I may actually add this to it. I think all of these are great. Some of you guys are interested in owning the total market ETFs. That's totally fine too. I own them both. Either you own them both, or you own them exclusively, or you own them all like I do. That's fine. At the end of the day, this is about money, but I wanted to introduce you guys to the ticker symbol and then the ability to kick in here. And I'm going to do this with the stock ETFs here. I just wanted to show you, for example, on this bond section, what the average yield has been since inception. This will give you the date that the fund was actually started. So to just get yourself kind of familiar with how to read this page will be very beneficial for you. 30-day yield at 2.5%. This is important stuff. So take, for example, BND, which is one of the favorites on the website, the total bond market ETF. We can always kick in here. Some of the takeaways here, if you wanted to opt into the Admiral shares, which I find that there is absolutely zero difference at all, except for the ability to brag that you're in the Admiral shares. I really don't see any other reason to opt for the Admiral as opposed to the ETF, but this is really cool. This is really cool. As a snapshot page, it'll give you the expense ratio, risk potential. Obviously, this is bonds, so significantly less. I like the example. This is a very typical example within the investment landscape to show the investment returns over $10,000 for the last 10 years. That's very typical. Not a whole lot of value other than just to be interesting, to be honest with you. But had you invested here $10,000, the hypothetical growth would have put it up closing in on 15,000. And then as we cruise on down here, the actual makeup within the funds. Now this gets a little bit more exciting Um, when we go back to our list of ETFs here, it kicked me out at the bottom here. So just to get familiar with the top end tier at in treasuries, investment grade bonds. I own a couple of these as well. Tax exempt fund, and then this is kind of the backbone of the page right here in our U.S. stock ETFs. You guys are going to recognize some of my faves here in the list: VOO and VTI right next to each other. These are signature Vanguard funds, kind of their flagship funds. I know some of you guys have gained exposure in some of these other offerings, which is fine. I own VYM. A lot of you guys are really really big on VIG, which is similar to this VYM. But this is a blend of both probably market caps here in this. But the same idea, you follow this inception rate of return, very, very impressive. But look at this year-to-date rate of return, 23%. That's just wild. But if we come down here and we click into, let's say, VTI, you'll understand where a lot of my statistics come from. They come right off of this page. There's no reason to deviate from what's already declared for you, the ticker symbol. A brief description, the expense ratio here, the yield, and then the year-over-year return. So if we click into VTI, same idea. I just am doing this to get you guys familiar with, and I'll go ahead and click in here real quick to show you, for example's sake, this VTSAX. This comes up all the time on the J.L. Collins offering. This is his favorite fund. You could definitely do this. This $3,000 has dropped from 10%. Starting, which I find this interesting. I'm on this website here. I've just shot this video September 21st, so this is interesting that this is actually 1 basis point higher than the ETF. I hadn't noticed that before, because again, this is my most popular video on YouTube, is where I disclose that I don't really think there's a whole lot of difference between these two funds, to be honest with you. Aesthetically, I think they're exactly the same. They're just bundled in a couple different packages and marketed different by Vanguard. It's smart. I mean, that's what I would do if I was Vanguard, but that's what they've done, and the total returns are very similar if you put these two over to, as a matter of fact, they're identical, but it gives you that hypothetical growth of $10,000. Risk potential goes up with an equity ETF, and then down here, this is kind of interesting. This is where the 3,606 total stocks in this, and then it'll give you the top 10 holdings, and 20% of the net assets are in the top 10 holdings. So really, really kind of cool. A lot of you guys will recognize those names. So very cool. And then you can toggle back and forth between the Admiral shares and the ETF itself. But that's really interesting, that 1 basis point of difference, how they're charging that little bit. Man, I tell you what, they can't make enough on those expenses. It's amazing to me. This is why I own the ETF exclusively. I don't need to have a flagship account. It doesn't mean that much to me. So anyway, see if I can get back here to the listing. Yep, cool. So here's the listing again. Again, if you're interested in the mid-cap offerings, they're here. And then the small cap offering, you guys know I invest in all three of these. One of them's in the first trade account, that's VB, that's the total, that's the blend, and then one of each respectively in each of the Roth IRAs, but the performance speaks for itself here with a 0.07 expense ratio in those accounts. I do own the emerging markets ETF, which is coming up here in international, I believe. Should be under VW. Yep, VWO here, emerging markets. Here's their international exposure. I'll probably be adding some VEU to my portfolio to add to some international exposure, maybe even some VXUS. And one of the subscribers was asking me about VYMI. I'm not totally excited about the 0.32. I would want to know where this is coming from. with the VYMI, the International High Dividend Yield ETF. I'd want to know where this is how that's justified. That seems a little high for a passive ETF, in my opinion. I would rather just opt for something like a VXUS or a VEA, something like that, or a VEU. Really is probably going to be the product that I go with, but I haven't made that decision just yet. And then finally, these will look familiar to you guys. These are the 11 sectors, this body of work here that Vanguard has wrapped up into their specialty ETFs. This is how I've built my M1 Finance portfolio. Really, really cool stuff, man. To see how the sectors have performed year over year since inception. They came out with these all in the same year. Kind of interesting. The dividend that's rendered on each of them, and then the associated ticker symbol in each of these. I do own VNQ. It's VNQ here with real estate, and the VPU are the only two that I have in two different accounts. So interesting enough, I own VNQ in both M1 Finance and one of the Roth IRAs that I have. But these are a unique way of investing. I like investing in either all of them or none of them. The only reason why I justify owning each of these two names is to gain exposure to each of these sectors without having to invest in single stock within each of these sectors. So that's just how I gain my exposure, especially in real estate. I've got a pretty big position in this real estate ETF here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is really the bulk of where my information comes from. It doesn't do any good for folks to come on and just hear it carte blanche from me. If I can show you where I'm getting the information from, it helps us all be more the wiser, and we can all get in here and put a lot of different perspectives on this website, really digest it, really tear it apart, really kind of compare what Vanguard's trying to doing with their offerings, and that way we're a lot more the wiser when we're looking to compare Vanguard products to some of the other major brokerages out there, as a lot of these companies or brokers are looking to race to the bottom in the expense ratio category. So very exciting stuff. I hope you guys appreciated this. And with that, I will kick you back over into YouTube. Thank you. Right on, guys. So welcome back out of Vanguard's website. I really hope you enjoyed this review. I think it's important for new investors to understand what their options are. This really strikes at the majority of the questions that I get are what ETFs to buy, what stock to buy, etc. And even though I can't comment specifically on what you should and shouldn't buy, I'm not a financial planner, but I own a lot of these. And for awareness sake, anybody in my audience should be able to go onto the Vanguard's website and determine for yourself what investments could potentially work for you, what type of expense ratio each of them offer, how many holdings in each, what the historical performance of $10,000 invested in each one of these products would have rendered. All that information is right there available, and it's so important for me to have my audience understand where the information comes from so you can seek it out on your own. Very, very important for me, guys. Welcome. It's so important. If it's your first time to the channel, you want to make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. You'll be notified of future videos that I put on YouTube. Leave your comments at the bottom. If you have other ETFs or other brokers that you prefer, throw those in the comments section. There'll be others that enjoy reviewing the thread on other products in the landscape. I typically stay in my swim lane with Vanguard, as I'm an owner in a lot of their ETF products. I'm very happy with their products, very low expense, and I know a lot of folks out there will also be happy with the low expense compared to the rest of the industry, but we want to be fair to other products out there. So leave those offerings in the comments section, guys, and like always, good luck in your investment future.